Everyone, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here for today's webinar on how to write an AI policy. My name is Savannah Richardson, and I am a GRC content analyst here at Tandem. Over the past year, I spent a lot of time digging into this topic, researching AI governance, analyzing vendor practices, and exploring how organizations can use AI safely and responsibly. And during that research, and so this research has led me to some exciting projects here at Tandem. I created our AI policy template, developed a security awareness training course, and have worked on several other AI-related initiatives to help financial institutions manage emerging risks. Today, I'm excited to share what I've learned, the key elements of a solid AI policy, and some practical steps that can help you build one that fits your organization. And stick around to the end because I'll also show you a quick demo of Tandem's policies so you can see how all of it comes together in practice. But before we begin, I need to cover a few housekeeping items. Just as a brief disclaimer, this presentation is for information only. This presentation contains our own opinions, and this presentation is proprietary. This session has audio and video feed. If all you can see is the PowerPoint, well then, you'll still get the same great information, just not my face. At the end of the session, give us your feedback and you might just win a $25 Amazon gift card. The slides recording and certificate of attendance will be sent to you via email after the session. And finally, please interact with us today. Use the questions panel. There are over 500 people registered, so we'll get to as many questions as we can. Just so you know a little bit about us, I work with Tandem, an information security and compliance application by Conetrix. Tandem is a suite of applications all focused around helping businesses create and manage their information security programs. One area we especially like to focus on is helping financial institutions be exam ready, whether that's with risk assessments, policies, vendor management, or anything else, we're here to help you. So throughout today's session, we'll have a quick few poll questions to learn about who's joining us and how your organization is approaching AI. If you attended our webinars before, you might recognize a couple of these questions. We would love to hear from you and have you participate, not just so we can tailor the conversation, but because learning is always better when we can learn from each other. So starting with our first poll question for this presentation, what type of organization do you currently work for? Our answer choices are bank, credit union, other financial institutions, third-party service provider, or other. And if you do select other, please leave a contact. We would like to know where you're coming from. Okay, we have a lot from banks so far. We're about 75%. We'll give a couple of more seconds. Okay, I think you can go ahead and close the poll. So we are seeing the results here, and we're seeing that there are about 68% from banks and 17% from credit unions, and we do have a few from other institutions, third-party service provider, and others. So if you haven't left a comment, please leave a comment. Let us know where you're coming from. We would love to know that. And then we have one more question here. So yeah, just one more question. What is your organization's asset size? We have our answer choices are less than 250 million, 250 million to 500 million, 500 million to 1 billion, 1 billion to 5 billion, or more than 5 billion. All right, we're seeing a lot in the 1 billion to 5 billion asset size, also in the 5 million to 1 billion. All right, I think we can go ahead and close those polls and share the results. Yeah, so we're seeing 34% at 1 billion to between 1 billion and 5 billion, and 22% for 5 million and 1 billion. This is great. This gives me a lot of information on who's attending with us today. So I'm very excited to go ahead and get started with this presentation. Okay, so here's a quick look at what we'll be covering today. First, we'll talk about what makes a good AI policy, not just why you need one, but what separates a useful policy from one that just checks a box. Then we'll walk through how to define the scope of your policy so it actually reflects how your organization's using AI tools. After that, we'll spend the bulk of our time on the core elements that should be included in a well-rounded AI policy, things like governance, vendor management, security, and employee education. Once we've covered those, I'll show you how all of this comes together in tandem with a live demo of our policies product, including what's already available in the AI policy template. And finally, we'll wrap up with a few takeaways and resources. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to submit those through the GoToWebinar Q&A panel. We'll do our best to answer those. So as I've been researching this over the past year, it's been eye-opening to see how quickly AI has been embedded into the tools we all use, often without organizations realizing that it's there or truly knowing the full scope of the risk. That's why we're starting with a clear, practical policy is important. So AI isn't just a trend anymore. It's quickly becoming a core part of our business operations, from writing and automation to analytics and customer service. But with all of that opportunity comes new risks. Without clear boundaries, employees could unintentionally cause data leaks, biased outcomes, or even regulatory issues. That's where a strong AI policy comes in. A well-crafted policy helps your organization stay in control, protect sensitive data, and still take full advantage of everything AI has to offer. And the good news, a solid AI policy doesn't have to be long or complicated. It just needs to be clear and practical, tailored to how your organization actually uses AI, and built on top of the policies and security practices you already have in place. So to make this practical, let's take a look at the key building blocks of an effective AI policy. First, we have, if I can get, there you go. First, we have scope and use cases to define where and how AI fits into your operations. Then we have governance and accountability to assign oversight and responsibility. Vendor management and security practices to manage third-party risks and protect your data. Acceptable use and training to make sure employees know the rules and have the skills to follow them. And just as important, your policy should be treated as a living document. As AI evolves and new risks emerge, your policy should grow and adapt right along with it. A clear policy sets boundaries, builds trust, and supports safe innovation. So this leads us to our next poll question. Our question here is, does your organization currently have an AI policy in place? Our answer choices are, yes, it's implemented and active. We're in the process of writing one. We plan to write one soon. No, we're not sure where to start, or not sure. All right. I can find my mouse. I keep on losing my mouse in these webinars. Okay. All right, we can go ahead and close the polls now. So to share those results with you, we have the highest is 33%. We're in the process of writing one. I'm so glad you're here to look at what the core, like those key elements of the AI policy are. I'm so glad to be sharing that with you. We have 29% already saying, yes, it's implemented and active. That's great. You stayed on top of it. We have 27, we plan to write one soon. This is great. This is a good starting point for you. And 10, no, we're not sure where to start. I really hope that this gives you an idea on where to start. This is great. I love this. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. So whether you're writing your first drafts, for some of you might be, or refining what you already have, the very first step is creating a solid AI policy. And creating a solid AI policy is understanding how AI is actually being used in your organization. So before writing your AI policy, the first thing you need to do is define the scope. That means understanding how AI is currently used in your organization, because that directly affects what your policy needs to include. So you'll want to ask yourself, are we using AI tools built in-house, or are we using third-party services like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot? Are we sending operationally critical or significant data? Are these tools used casually, like to help write emails, or do they make important business decisions? Do they interact with sensitive customer data or confidential information? So looking at the restrictive private and public data. And what departments are using them? Is it marketing, HR, IT, and how are those uses different? Taking time to clarify the scope early on helps make sure your AI policy is both relevant and manageable. If you're only using third-party tools, your policy can focus more on vendor risk, acceptable use, and training. But if you're developing AI in-house, you'll need to include things like model testing, transparency, and ethical design. Okay, so as you can see, the way your organization uses AI plays a huge role in shaping what your policy should include. So before we move on, let's take a moment to see how AI is currently being used across today's audience. How is AI currently being used in your organization? So this is both official and unofficial use, and you can select all that apply in this question. Oh, yeah, and our answer choices, writing and content creation, customer support chatbots, automation and analytics, internal decision making, or all of the above. Okay, we're seeing a lot in the writing and content creation, and that's what I would expect. Some with automation and analytics, customer support and chat box. Okay, we have about 72%. And if you're seeing the results right now, we have 82% that are using it for writing and content creation. Again, this is about what I expected in this. Some with customer support and chatbots. The next is at 39% is automation and analytics. And some of them are using them for internal decision making. That's really interesting. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is so, I love looking at these polls because it just gives you so much information about what's going on and how people are using AI. Okay, so that brings us to our next section, governance and accountability, because without clear ownership, even the best AI tools can introduce unnecessary risk. In my research, I came across several examples of companies creating cross-functional AI committees, not because it was trendy, but because AI decisions touch IT, compliance, HR, and even legal. Building governance into your policy makes oversight much stronger. And you thought we were done with our poll questions, but we have just another one for you. I like to pull all of this information. Okay, so our next poll question is, who currently oversees AI use at your organization? Our answer choices are IT security, compliance or risk, executive leadership, no one yet, and that's probably part of the problem, or not sure. All right. We're seeing about 50% in IT security. Great, we can go ahead and close those polls. So to share those results with you, we're seeing that 50% of the people that are overseeing AI at your organization is IT or security, and then compliance and risk is at 7%, 13% for executive leadership, and no one yet. That's part of the problem. So you're wanting to kind of figure out who that is for your organization, and that's going to play a huge role in when you're creating your AI policy. So let's start with why governance and accountability matter, especially in the context of AI. And we'll share some definitions here for you. So governance refers to the internal rules, processes, policies, and structures that guide an organization's decision-making strategy. Accountability ensures that individuals and groups are responsible for their actions and decisions with clear oversight and reporting lines. According to the FFIEC IT Examination Management Booklet, that's a lot of words into one booklet, governance, and I'm just going to summarize the quote here for you. So governance is not just about structure, it's about how leadership ensures that technology supports the institution's goals with aligning with risk appetite, regulatory expectations, and strategic priorities. For financial institutions, this means that having a framework in place that supports sound decision-making, effective risk management, and transparent accountability, especially when adopting and using new technologies like AI. A well-governed institution can better manage emerging risks, respond to regulatory scrutiny, and ensure that all technology, AI included, is used in a way that's critical, secure, and aligned with the organization's mission. Once you've defined the scope of your AI use, the next step is to figure out who's responsible for keeping it in check. This is where governance and accountability come in. Governance doesn't have to mean building a whole new department, but it does mean assigning ownership. Someone needs to oversee how AI is used across the organization. In a smaller business, this might be your ISO and network administrator. In a larger organization, you might set up a cross-functional AI team with input from IT and security, compliance, legal, HR, or department leaders. You also want to make sure responsibilities are clearly defined. You can ask, who approves the use of new AI tools? Who ensures vendor assessments are completed? Who's responsible for monitoring ethical and legal concerns? The goal isn't to add complexity, it's to ensure decisions about AI use are thoughtful, documented, and accountable. This prevents surprises later, especially when something goes wrong or when regulators start asking questions. Now you're probably asking, how does this tie into creating an AI policy? Well, these individuals or teams, the ones you've just assigned oversight to, will likely be the ones responsible for reviewing the AI policy, ensuring it's implemented, and keeping it up to date. Their names or roles might even be listed directly in the policy as the go-to contacts for AI use questions, approvals, or concerns. In other words, your governance structure becomes the backbone that supports the policy and then puts it into action. So now that you've assigned ownership and built a governance structure to support responsible AI use, the next step is addressing one of the biggest sources of AI risk for most organizations, and that's third-party vendors. If you're not building AI systems internally, chances are you're using tools developed by someone else. That means your AI policy needs to include clear expectations for how those vendors are selected, reviewed, and even monitored. One thing I found while digging into AI vendor practices is that many tools collect and store user data, even in ways that aren't so obvious. This reinforces the need for AI-specific vendor reviews, and not just general due diligence. So vendor management, you might be thinking, I thought we were talking about policies. I promise we are. For most organizations, AI use will come from third-party tools, not in-house development. And more often, those AI features are being integrated into the platforms your teams already use every single day. So think about tools like Microsoft Copilot, which taps into Teams, Outlook, Word, and SharePoint to help employees work smarter, or even Salesforce Einstein, using AI to analyze customer data and predict sales opportunities or support needs. These aren't new standalone AI platforms that are easy to spot. They're just baked right into your existing vendor relationship, and they can make them feel safe by default. But here's the catch. Because these vendors were already approved in the past, many organizations aren't doing a deep enough reassessment now that AI is in the mix. So how does this fit into your AI policy? Your policy should make it clear that vendor management isn't just about onboarding. It's about continuously reviewing third-party tools, especially when they introduce AI capabilities. The good news, you already have a vendor management process in place. The key now is to build on it with AI-specific checks to address the new risks these tools bring. By doing this, your AI policy reinforces your vendor management program and helps ensure AI risks don't slip through the cracks. Okay, so this takes us to our next poll question. Do you include outsourced AI systems in your vendor management program? Our answer choices are yes, all outsourced AI systems are included. Some only select AI vendors are reviewed in this way. No, we don't currently include AI systems, or not sure. Okay. Yeah, so we're seeing, yeah, everything is about even across the charts. That's interesting. So our highest choice as of right now is 30%. We don't currently include AI systems. And then we can go ahead and close the poll. So very interesting. Like I said, it's kind of spread evenly throughout those answer choices. And we have at 30%, we don't do that yet. We have 28% that says yes, all outsourced AI systems are included. 21%, some only selected AI vendors are reviewed. That's probably based on criticality or how they're actually using AI there. And then 22% not sure. Okay, So here's a quick snapshot on some common outsourced AI systems organizations use today. I'm actually seeing a question that coming in from our audience, and did you already define what is an AI system? I think with these examples, you'll be able to see what those, what that snapshot is, or what we're calling AI systems here, especially for vendors. But some of these are dedicated AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity that your employees may be logging into directly. Others are AI features integrated into existing platforms, things like Microsoft Copilot and Office 365 or Salesforce Einstein. And then don't forget about the new AI systems rolling out from Apple, Meta, and even X. These tools are finding their way into our daily workflows faster than most organizations realize. And you might not even realize that it's a part of your daily workflows. We like to coin this term as shadow AI here at Tandem. So now, all of these, whether standalone or integrated, introduce unique risks. And the big question for your organization is, are these tools accounted for in your vendor management and security processes? So I actually want to pause here for a second and talk about one tool in particular, DeepSeek. And you probably see DeepSeek there on the screen. It's been making waves lately, not just because it helps with writing and research, but because it claims to do so more efficiently than apps like ChatGPT. That caught a lot of attention, but so did the fact that it's owned by a company based in China. And for many people, that raised some real concerns. So I thought it would be worth taking a quick look at their privacy policy together. And I'm gonna get that pulled up for us really fast. All right. So here live is DeepSeek's privacy policy. So there's just a couple of things when I was reading through this privacy policy that stood out to me. Starting with personal, what kind of personal data are they collecting? Well, if you come here and look, they're collecting account personal data, user input, personal data when you contact them. They are also automatically collecting device and network personal data, log personal data, location, cookies, payments. And I really wanted to highlight this specific statement here. It says we may obtain publicly available personal data via online sources to train our models and provide services. Down here, they also explain how they're using it to train their models to improve and develop the services and to train and improve our technology, such as machine learning models and algorithms. So anything your employees, any individual that is inputting into DeepSeek could be retained and used to train their own AI models, even sensitive data like customer details or internal documents. Now, you're probably wondering, are they sharing this information with others? Well, they are. They're sharing it with their service providers, their corporate group, their other third parties. Once data leaves DeepSeek servers, it could be shared across their corporate group or with third parties around the world who may have very different privacy standards. Sorry. Oh, my fault. Okay. And then you're probably wondering, how long are they keeping this data? Well, if we look down, I believe it's right here. How long do we keep your personal data? Well, it's indefinite. Here in this statement, we retain personal data for as long as necessary to provide our services and for the other purposes set out in this privacy policy. Then whenever they're ready, they will go and delete and erase or convert into an anonymous form. And so whenever they're not required to collect that data anymore, they will go and delete it. So even if you delete your account, there's no guarantee that all your data is erased. They can hold on to it indefinitely for their business purposes. And then you're probably wondering, where do they store your personal data? Well, in this line here, the personal data we collect from you may be stored on a server located outside of the country where you live. To provide you with our services, we directly collect, process, and store your personal data in People's Republic of China. Your organization's sensitive data could end up sitting on servers in China where it's outside your control and potentially accessible to foreign governments. So let me get back into our presentation here. And honestly, I just wanted to share this with you to make the point that not all AI is created equal. It is so important to include AI in your vendor management program so you can see what kind of data they're collecting, because that is our job. We're supposed to protect our data and our customer data. Okay. So this leads me to our next poll question. How many of these AI systems does your organization use? And so when I'm referring to AI systems, I'm referring to that list that we just saw in that slide. And our answer choices are none, 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 10, all of them at once, I suppose. Okay. So we have 1 to 2 at 65% so far, 3 to 5 at 19. And, you know, this might also be a trick question because you also maybe aren't too sure what all of the AI systems your own employees are using too. And that can be, like I said, shadow AI, right? Okay, we can go ahead and close the poll. Perfect. So yeah, we're seeing that 63% have at least 1 to 2 of those AI systems that are being in use, and that's probably things like ChatGPT or Perplexity. I'm just guessing, I'm really not sure, but we have 19% at 3 to 5, 14% at 9, 3% at 6 to 10, and then 2% at all of them at once, I suppose. Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. I love these questions. Okay. So a strong AI policy doesn't just say evaluate your vendors, and this is where we're going to get into the core of what you should write into your policy, but it does go a step further and establishes how to determine the criticality of an AI system. This is important because the level of oversight you apply should match the risk posed by the tool. In the AI policy, you can guide your team to consider factors like the licensing structure. So the licensing structure of the tool, whether it's free and open source or part of a paid contract. The type and sensitivity of data it uses, like customer information, internal reports, or proprietary data. And then the function of the AI, does it support casual tasks or does it play a role in business decisions or security operations? So once you know how critical the vendor is, you can go deeper. Another part of your policy can state the following. And here is a policy statement. Understand how the vendor accesses, processes, and secures input data. Your team will be able to determine what kind of data the AI system is using, such as customer PII, internal operational data, or public content, and look at that data and how that data flows through the vendor's system. This part is crucial because if sensitive data is being shared with an AI tool, your organization is still responsible for keeping the data safe, even if it's processed off-site. Our next statement can say, evaluate how the AI model is trained, validated, and maintained. If we've learned anything about AI is that it's not static. AI systems are learning and evolving. By evaluating the model, you get insight into how mature and transparent the vendor is about their AI process, and then helps protect against things like model drift or unexpected behavior after updates. Some things your teams would want to know is, how was the model originally trained? What data was used? How do they validate the model's accuracy, fairness, or reliability? Is the model updated regularly, and how are those changes documented? Or even what version control is in place, and are change logs available for review? Our next statement would be monitor performance, things like uptime, update cycles, and how security incidents are handled. It's important to treat AI tools like any other critical technology service. So do they offer service level agreements around uptime or performance? How often do they update the AI model or related software? What's their process for reporting and responding to incidents that affect confidentiality, integrity, and availability? If an AI tool suddenly changes behavior, makes incorrect decisions, or becomes unavailable, it could cause operational disruptions or reputational damage. Your AI policies should prompt teams to monitor this proactively and request regular performance or audit reports from vendors, especially from flagged, if those vendors are flagged as high criticality. And when it comes to the contracts and agreements, your policy should encourage including terms that address Transparency, like algorithm updates, decision logs, or explainability reports. Bias and fairness. Now, this is important for our banking community or for our credit unions that have a lending department. This is you're wanting to look at things such as bias detection tools or doing fairness audits. Model training, versioning, and decommissioning. We'll call this the model life cycle. You want to document or how they're documenting how models are versioned, updated, or retired. And then liability, who's responsible if the AI makes harmful or costly decisions. These these additions build on your existing vendor management practices, but with the lens that specifically accounts for AI-related risk. So as you can see, managing AI vendors requires more than just standard due diligence. It means asking the right questions, setting clear expectations, and building those into your contracts. And I think I saw quite a few questions come in. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take a break right now and look at those questions to see if there's anything I can answer right now. You know, there's this question. I lost it. I think it was asking for any recommendations that are safe for financial institutions to use. And I won't be able to give a specific one. I don't know if I can. I don't want to be a consultant here. But I would just say if there are any that your organization or your employees are using often, check on those AI systems, read their privacy policies, really get to know what they're using them, like get to know what your employees are using them for, and see if that works with your organization and works for the risks that you're willing to take on at your organization. Again, I mean, some popular ones that I mentioned, like ChatGPT and Perplexity for chatting or for like research and non-sensitive customer data or non-sensitive information of the organization are pretty popular, and I think a lot of people are using them even personally, and so that's something to consider. But if you're looking for something that is going to store sensitive information or you're using for sensitive information, then I would probably just do a deeper look into that privacy policy and see if it works for your organization. Are all AI system models? I've been told no, but let's see. Sorry, I'm just kind of reading through these. The words are really tiny on the screen, so I don't have my glasses on either. Okay, some of these have already been answered, so I will go ahead and move on. But if you have any more questions, if there's some that I'm missing, I will definitely reach out to you after this as well. And then as we continue, I'll keep on looking through those questions too. So we'll go ahead and move on for that. Okay, so going to leverage existing security policies. One of the most efficient ways to build your AI policy is by tapping into the security controls you already have in place. AI isn't an exception to your security framework. It's simply another layer of technology that needs to follow the same core principles. Rather than reinventing the wheel, your AI policy can reference, adapt, or expand on what's already in place. Let's walk through a few key areas where this applies. So let's start with the access control policy. Your organization already limits who can access systems and data based on job roles and responsibilities. But when it comes to AI tools, you'll want your policy to go a little further. And for example, not everyone should have equal access to AI systems. So you would want to know who is authorized to use AI tools, what types of data are allowed, and should there be different access levels based on how sensitive a tool is. Then AI systems may introduce new or existing access risks. Now, here's an important consideration. So tools like Microsoft Copilot inherit user permission from Microsoft 365. So if a user already has broad or privileged access in Microsoft 365, Copilot will operate under those same permissions, potentially giving the user broader access than intended. That's an existing access risk. It's critical to review and adjust your user rights before deploying tools like these. But AI also introduces new access risks. Many AI platforms require their own accounts, logins, or API keys completely separate from your usual systems. This means teams might be creating accounts outside of IT's oversight. Again, shadow AI. API keys could be shared or stored insecurely, or users might gain access to AI-powered integrations they wouldn't have in your internal systems. Your AI policy should address how these accounts and API keys are created, managed, and revoked, whether multi-factor authentication is required, and who's responsible for managing them. There was a question that I received not too long ago from one of our internal employees, and it was one that was, if multi-factor authentication is a setting in all AI systems. From what I've seen and what I've noticed from my research, that multi-factor is a setting that can be turned on for most AI systems. I'm not going to say all of them because I haven't checked all of them, but it could be turned on for other in other accounts. And so just wanted to throw that out there and give you a little more information about multi-factor. Okay, and finally, clear access roles strengthen accountability. If something goes wrong, you'll need to know who had access, what they were allowed to do, and whether their access was properly reviewed. By aligning your AI policy with your access control policy, you're putting guardrails in place to make sure that AI use is thoughtful, traceable, and secure. Okay, so next is the IT asset management policy. AI tools, especially browser-based and cloud platforms, aren't always treated like traditional IT assets, but I think they should be. Your AI policy can reinforce this by defining how AI tools are identified, inventoried, and approved, whether personal or unvetted tools like free ChatGPT accounts are allowed for business use, and how AI integrations with other systems like your email platforms are tracked and controlled. So treating AI tools as formal assets means they get the same oversight, security reviews, and lifecycle management as any other technology. Next, let's talk about data protection or your data protection policy. You may call it data management as well. This is a big one for AI. AI tools can introduce less obvious risks around how data is shared, stored, and even reused. Your AI policy should build on existing practices and set clear guardrails. You'll want to define what data is okay to use. Make it clear what should never be entered into AI tools like PII, financial records, or internal reports, unless the tool is approved and secured. You want to address encryption and anonymization. If sensitive data absolutely must be used, require anonymization and ensure it aligns with your data classification policy. And I'm not going to lie, I had to repractice and practice how to say anonymization, and I'm still struggling saying it. So take time to practice it if you haven't said it in a while. It's a tough word. Okay. And then clarify what happens to data after it's processed. Some tools store prompts or reuse data to train their models. So your policy should encourage teams to ask, is data retained? Is it used to refine the model? Can we opt out of data retention? And you can see a lot of this information in the privacy policies that the AI systems have. So reinforcing these practices keeps AI tools from becoming a loophole for mishandling sensitive information. Now let's move on to monitoring and logging. AI tools shouldn't be treated differently from other systems when it comes to oversight. This would be more for your vendor integrated AI systems like Copilot and Salesforce Einstein. Your AI policy should extend monitoring practices to include who is using AI tools and how. Log who's accessing AI platforms, what credentials they're using, and how often. What data is being entered? Monitor prompts or sensitive or regulated information. Anomalies or misuse. Watch for unusual patterns like large volumes of queries or activity at odd hours. And then this one might not fall necessarily into this section. It probably would have been better in the data protection section, but I'm gonna talk about it because I think it's an important concept. So reviewing AI outputs, encourage human in the loop reviews before acting on AI generated content, especially for high impact decisions. I really want to touch just a little bit on this human in the loop concept. So we are all aware that AI may not be completely accurate at times. And so it is our job to know what data we're inputting so that we're not inputting sensitive customer information or just sensitive data in general. And then also, what is the AI spitting out? We need to be experts at knowing what that information is so we understand the data that AI is, again, spitting out, because it could be wrong. And so a human in the loop is such an important concept to protect your data. Now, together, these measures ensure AI activity is visible, accountable, and compliant. So finally, let's talk about incident response. As AI tools become part of your operations, it's important to connect them to your incident response plan. Your AI policy should be clear that AI-related issues like harmful outputs, data leaks, or malfunctioning integrations are treated as formal incidents. So you'll want to include AI in reporting and escalation, make clear who to notify if there is an AI-related problem, guide teams on how to respond, define steps to disable tools, involve compliance or legal, and contain the issue. Include AI in the post-incident reviews. Evaluate whether the tool was used appropriately and if additional controls or training are needed. By tying AI into your response plan, you're ensuring these tools are held to the same standards as any other technology. So this section of your policy is really about reinforcing what's already working and then connecting the dots. By pointing to policies you already have, like we just covered, you create a stronger, more integrated AI policy that feels familiar, manageable, and easier to maintain. This approach keeps your AI policy lean and focused while still covering all the important bases. It also helps ensure consistency across teams and departments since everyone is working from the same foundational policies. And while these 4 areas are essential, the ones that we just covered, they're not the only policies that you can reference. Depending on your organization, you might also consider tying in things like change management if AI tools require approval or deployment controls, the system development lifecycle, the SDLC, if you're building or customizing AI tools internally, and even your business continuity or disaster recovery plans in case an AI failure causes downtime or operational risk. These additional policies may not apply to everyone, but the point is, use what makes sense for your environment. The more you treat AI as an integrated part of your tech and governance ecosystem, the easier it is to manage the risk and the more confident your team will feel using it. Okay, so we're gonna take another break so I can take a look at some of these questions, and I'll try to get to them as many as I can, if I can actually see what the questions say. Again, I don't have my glasses on, so it's kind of difficult to see. Let's just start from the top here. Is the deck going to be provided? Yes, it will be. Okay, there was a comment that per our policy, we don't use AI, so I kept it blank and submitted. I will just double check that. I understand that there are a lot of risks when it comes to having AI or using AI at your organization, but I think what we're seeing and what I've seen in my research is that there's someone at the organization using AI, whether you know it or not. I mean, if you take a look at even like Google Chrome, it has Gemini attached to it. And it's based off a search engine. It's supposed to be a search assistant, but that is AI. And so in some ways, there's someone using AI at your organization. And so just to play it safe, I think it is important to have an AI policy in place in case something does come from that, in case there is a breach, or if there is sensitive information that goes into that AI that your employees are using. May we get a copy of the presentation after the webinar? Yes, you definitely will. We defined what the AI system was. We talked about recommendations. sorry, I'm just reading some of these. To prevent possible PII exposure of information that the AI user has access to, should the policy indicate that certain data sensitivity levels are not available to AI? Oh, that is such a great question. So I think that within your policy, you need to be clear on what AI is approved for non-sensitive information. So again, that could be things like ChatGPT or Perplexity. Like if your employees are using it to help write emails or to use it for research, you'll want to list that information there. Now, when it comes to when you're approving AI systems to be able to store and use it for sensitive information, it depends on the type of sensitive information that you are inputting into that system. And so I think you should be clear in your policy what AI systems are included in that list of this is a secured and approved AI system, and only certain employees or certain privileges should be able to use this system for internal like business decisions. And so I think once you get to that AI system that is being used for sensitive information or making internal business decisions, it's going to require least privilege. It's going to be based on job roles and responsibility, and it's also going to be determined on how what kind of information is being input. So you do want to be clear on what those systems are, who's allowed to prove it to use it, and then yeah, I think that's it. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, I could go on forever on that, but great question. I love this comment. Having a SME is in the loop is such a good point. Glad you brought it up. And like I said, human in the loop, having a subject matter expert evaluating that data and what is coming in and out of that AI system is so important. So make sure that you're doing that. Again, if you're using it to make internal business decisions, I mean, okay, yeah, I won't go into too far. I can get on a soapbox for all of that, so I won't do that. But there's a question, should policy indicate that any AI use case not expressly allowed will be blocked? I think that's a really good addition. I think that is providing more education for your employees to know exactly this is the only approved list that we have for AI. If you're going in and using it, it's going to be blocked. I mean, I think if you just have that approved list out there for your employees to see, they should already know that some other AI tools are restricted. Now, I would also encourage that if there is something that they're seeing and that they would like to use and they've heard good things about it, or they think it would be really beneficial to their daily work life, then I think you could also include who to contact if they need to get permission to use that tool. So that if it's the network administrator or your ISO that they need to contact, they can apply or submit that AI application to the ISO so that they can do their due diligence in knowing, okay, what is the system about? What is their data privacy policy like, and get that approved and add that to the approved lists for their company. Okay, I have some more to get back into, so let's go ahead and continue the conversation. Okay. One of the biggest gaps I saw in my research wasn't technical, it was people. Employees often don't know what's okay and what isn't with AI tools. A policy combined with clear training closes that gap. And so I just talked about some acceptable use here and sharing information to your employees, so I think this is going to help out. Even the most well-written policy won't help if your employees don't know what's expected of them. That's where your acceptable use policy comes in. It's one of the most direct ways to communicate how employees should and shouldn't use AI tools in their daily work. First, you'll want to define what's allowed and what's not. Your AI policy should either include or reference updated AUP language that clearly defines what AI tools are approved for use, under what conditions they can be used for drafting content, not making final decisions, what types of content or data should never be shared with AI systems such as PII, financial data, or internal reports. This removes ambiguity and helps employees avoid gray areas where well-meaning use could still result in data exposure or compliance violations. You want to set boundaries for high-risk usage. AI tools can be helpful, but they're not always right. And we just talked about that, and that's awesome. Okay, sorry, everything just goes full circle here. Your policies should prohibit the use of AI for making high-stakes decisions, like approving loans, hiring, firing, replacing regulatory or legal review, circumventing security protocols, or system limitations. These guardrails protect your organization from operational, legal, and reputational damage or risk. Then perform AI security awareness training. Policy is only half the equation. Training makes it stick. Your AI policy should emphasize the importance of ongoing awareness training that includes AI risk scenarios, helping employees recognize when to ask questions or to escalate, and reinforcing that AI tools are assistants, not replacements for professional judgment. The goal is to create a culture of informed, confident AI use, not fear, confusion, or blind trust in the tech. By weaving AI-specific guidance into your acceptable use policy and then backing it up with clear training, you help employees stay within the lines, protect sensitive information, and use AI tools effectively and ethically in their daily work. So let me just share a quick story that really illustrates why all of this matters. So not long ago, I heard about a company where the ISO decided to send out an email to all of the employees there at this company. He asked them to list any AI tools or plugins they were using at work so he can figure out what can be approved or what should be approved, what wasn't approved, and which tools might actually be useful for handling sensitive data in the future. When he started reviewing the responses, he noticed that a few employees had installed Grammarly as a browser plugin and even downloaded the application on their work laptops or work computers. It seemed harmless, just as it's just a helpful tool for writing emails and documents, but here's the catch. Grammarly had access to their Teams, emails, Word, and even their browsers. And when the ISO dug into Grammarly's data policy, he found that it was using or retaining user data for up to a year and using it to train its AI model. That meant potentially sensitive company information was being collected and stored without the employees or the organization realizing it. And just so you know, just to show you that this isn't an exaggeration, here's a screenshot from Grammarly's own privacy policy. So in the first statement, for troubleshooting and product improvement, we typically retain your user content for no longer than 1 year. And I wanted to highlight this next statement too. With the Grammarly editor, we store documents you create until you delete them or we close your account. So the ISO acted quickly. He reached out to the employees using Grammarly, asked them to remove the plugin and remove them from their laptops, and added it to the company's do not allow list. So even something as simple as a writing assistant could be holding on to sensitive data far longer than you would expect, and maybe even using it to improve their own AI systems. I loved that story. I think it's so important for us to be aware of, again, what our employees and what ourselves are using and what those applications are doing and how they're using our data. So this leads me to our next poll question. Does your acceptable use policy address use of AI tools? All right. So we're getting a lot it's on their radar. That's great. And yes, we've already made updates. That's great. Okay, I think we can go ahead and close the poll and share those results. So we have 55% at not yet, but it's on our radar, and 28% saying yes, we've already made updates, 8% at no, and we're not sure if we need to, and 8% not sure. And again, I would encourage that at some point someone's using AI. And so I would just take a look at that, at least take that into consideration if it's not already a part of your acceptable use policy. At least having a list of approved AI tools. I know you probably don't even want to encourage any of that, but just having something in place and being aware that AI is being used at your organization in some way is a really, really important step on knowing if you should have that acceptable use policy or have it in your acceptable use policy or have a policy for that. Okay, and then we have one more poll question. If I can get to it. Okay, does your security awareness training include AI topics? This is our last question for today. And our answer choices are yes, it's part of our security awareness training. No, but we're planning to add it. No, and we haven't discussed it yet or not sure. All right, so it's pretty evenly split. Okay, I think we can go ahead and close those polls and share the information. So we have 30% at yes, it's part of the security awareness training, 35% no, but we're planning to add it, 28% at no, we haven't discussed it yet, and 7% not sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing. I'm excited to show you the policies product for Tandem because I think it's going to help some of you guys that are at least planning on it or just not sure where to start with things. So, okay. If writing an AI policy still feels overwhelming, take a breath. One of the best approaches you can take is to follow the KISS principle. Keep it simple and straightforward. And for the Office fans, yes, we all know the classic line, keep it simple, stupid. Great advice, hurts my feelings every time. We're softening it today, but the wisdom still applies. Simple is powerful. The simpler your policy is, the more likely it is to be followed, referenced, and respected. So your AI policy doesn't need to be long, legalistic, or packed with technical jargon. It just needs to fit your organization, tailor it to your size, industry, and actual use of AI, cover the essentials like scope, governance, vendor oversight, and employee guidance. Build on what you already have. Use your existing policies and processes as the foundation, and be useful to the people who need it, clear, actionable, and understandable across teams. And speaking of keeping it simple, you don't have to start from scratch. In Tandem, we've already built an AI policy template that includes all of the components we talked about today. It's designed to help you get started quickly, tailor the content to your organization, and maintain alignment with your other policies. So now let me show you how easy it is to customize your AI policy inside Tandem. If I can find my mouse, there you are. Oh, and I need to log in. Let me just do that really fast. All right. Great. And we'll jump into our policies product. So the great thing about our policies product is that it already has a lot of proposed content for you. We have a lot of the policies that we were talking about today, and not just the artificial intelligence AI policy, but also like change management, data management, the incident management, IT asset management. So we have a lot of these policies that are already included that we talked about that's important to reference in your AI policy. But let's take a look at the AI policy that we have here in Tandem. Once I click that edit button, we'll be taken to the actual policy so that we can start editing. And we'll start with the policy statement. And so the statement is really summarizing what the purpose of this policy is and what it's protecting. So we want to ensure that there's secure implementation of AI tools to safeguard data confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Then with all of our templates, we do have a commentary section that is optional. You can turn off this section if you don't want it there, but we have it there just so that we can describe what this policy really is, giving definitions and really clear it, like painting the picture of what this policy is supposed to do and some of those key phrases that we probably have in our policy. And so if we're defining AI tools that can be used for several, like how AI tools are used at the organization, we'll be able to see that it's used for content creation, data analysis, and so on, just depending on what your organization is using it for. And then we're also identifying and highlighting the unique risks that that AI present at the organization. And I realize that I'm at just a minute left, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. But the one thing I wanted to really point out is this implementation text. And so a lot of this, we talked about vendor management. We talked about what should be included in that vendor management implementation text inside the presentation, and that is all included already in this implementation text. We also have a place for that governance and accountability, who is in charge of and who is responsible for implementing what is stated in your AI policy. And so you can include that here. And then we also have our references to our related policies. Again, we want to make this as simple as possible and not make it this huge policy that no one's going to be able to read. And so we're able to relate or reference those other policies that we have in the product and make a statement on how it should be used for AI. And then we also have our acceptable use text. So this is where you're going to build out that acceptable use policy, and I'll show you where the acceptable use policy lives. But in each policy, you'll be able to include a section and about the specific policy for your AUP. So in this template, we have it stated that we need the approval of our network administrator before we start using tools, and then what should not be included, or what information we should not add to these AI specific tools, like proprietary bank information or customer information. And then we have more governance and accountability here, where we can apply our AI committee if we have an AI committee, or if it's our information security committee that's evaluating and reviewing these implementation of controls. We can add review items for them so that they're being notified and they are aware when they should be reviewing this content or the implementation, or reviewing, making sure that AI vendors are being held accountable. Okay, and then I want to show you, go back up, we'll go over to the global tab, and we'll jump over to the acceptable use policy page. So this page is going to show all the policies that have acceptable use text included. And so you can go here and you can come and download this document and show the entire acceptable use policy. But what I love about Tandem is that you can actually enroll users or your employees into AUP training. They'll receive an email with the link of the course so that they can just do it right at their desk. They'll sign it and submit it. They're all online, so you're not having to download all these documents and share it with everyone. Since we're talking about training, I do want to jump over to the training page, where you'll see that acceptable use training course, but I also wanted to show you an example of the security awareness AI training course. So coming here to the lessons page, I'll scroll down to our security awareness training, artificial intelligence. If you are subscribed to policies, you will have access to this, but you can enroll your employees to take this course. And the course really just talks about like the basics of AI. What is artificial intelligence? What are some security risks that we see? How we shouldn't be using unapproved systems or adding proprietary data or information into the system. And once the users conclude this lesson, they also have a test that they can take at the end of it to just test their knowledge on what they learned from this course. And so it's really helpful to have for your security awareness training. And again, you don't have to start from scratch. It's here in Tandem. Okay, so that is everything I wanted to show you in Tandem. Let me get back to my slides. Now, I know I just went over. If you submitted questions, I'm sorry that I didn't get to it today, but I will definitely get back to you at the end of this webinar. And there are some things I wanted to wrap up with. So you make sure you fill out the survey for a chance to win a $25 Amazon gift card. And are you curious about how your cybersecurity budget stacks up against the industry, how your incident trends compare to other financial institutions? Wouldn't it be helpful to know what's top of mind for your peers in 2025? Well, we're running a survey to better understand the state of cybersecurity in the financial industry. So the results will be published in a detailed report coming out this fall, and we'd love for your organization to be part of it. All responses are anonymous and confidential, and upon completing the survey, you can enter to win one of the five $50 Amazon gift cards. So you have access to them on the slides, and I believe our team is also dropping the link in the comments. So please make sure to fill out that survey if you can. With so many vendors now adding AI to their products and services, it can feel like a challenge to know how to manage that risk effectively. So to help, we created a vendor AI checklist to get you started. For Tandem customers, this checklist is built directly into the vendor management product. If you're subscribed to vendor management, you can go to the settings and go to the review templates page, and you'll see this AI checklist there. And for non-Tandem customers, we put together a free 6-page PDF checklist you can download today. And so that link is there in the slides, and I believe we're also dropping that in the comments. And with that, I think we'll call it a day. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.